All right, Rob, technical difficulties aside, the show must go
All right.
on, as you will well know.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, do it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Love to do it live.
All right, okay. Well, this is Lauren. She's my daughter, one of my daughters, and you
All
may
right.
be aware she generally asks the first question on each show. So I'll just
Yes.
sit back and have my coffee.
Yeah, so why did you start filmmaking?
Why did I start filmmaking? So this is something that I've always been interested in, probably since I was around your age. Um, the film that really made things click for me was Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And in the 90s, Arnold was huge. I was a huge Arnold fan. And I saw a behind the scenes on how that film was made, like a making of documentary. And so that's really what kind of made things click for me. And then, I was using video cameras when I was a kid, and in high school, I was doing the TV show at school, and just really liked it. I really liked the process of shooting and editing and just telling stories in that way. So then that's what I studied in college, and that's what I pursued as my career. And so now I'm just kind of stuck with it because it's been about 20 years since I've been doing it.
Okay, that's so have you made other films other than
The Bitcoiner
the
movie.
Bitcoin movie? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done a couple of my own short films, and I've shot a lot of TV, a lot of true crime documentaries, a lot of just interviews in general. But I have done a couple of my other short films. So this was my first feature film.
Okay, so you were working for a company before then?
Yeah, so I've worked at different companies, different production companies on staff, and for probably about the last 10 years, I've been freelancing. So I've been self-employed, and just different companies, different people will contact me to do filming and editing work for them.
Okay, that's cool.
Interested?
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember when there was a filmmaking club on
Oh yeah, you did
uh
that. Yeah, that filmmaking
no,
club. Slow
I
one.
did
Oh,
it.
you didn't do it. Oh, Sophia did it. Right.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
thank
Well,
you for answering my questions.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. All right, have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.
all right, mate. Well, she stole all my questions. Podcast
Yeah.
over.
That's everything, huh?
It's amazing, right? What she can get out of people in 3 minutes takes me an hour and a half. As Odell says, she's the toughest interviewer in the space. Um, so, yeah, I mean, Judgment T2 Judgment Day. Interesting. I remember watching that in the cinema when I was a kid. And
Yeah.
I think it's the only film I've ever bought a ticket to go back and watch in all seriousness, because it was, I mean, I was born in 76, so we're probably around the same age, but it was like one of those like movies where you walk out there like, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a classic, the story structure, the hero's journey. I mean, the special effects were cutting edge and still look pretty good. I mean, in their own sort of early 90s way. And I was a huge Guns N' Roses fan
Yeah,
during that time. And so
same
they
here.
got a, great Guns N' Roses song with the kids on the dirt bikes. And yeah, I mean, one of the few movies where I would say the sequel is better than the original, in my opinion. And I mean, it's still a great film. I haven't watched it in a couple years, but I think it's still one of the best.
Timeless, man. Absolutely
Yeah.
timeless. It's really nice to get to the bottom of where people get that original kind of impetus to go and do something and create a career about it. I was just at a conference in Switzerland, and there was a young girl up on stage, and she was an independent watchmaker. And she showed a little film about what she does and how she does it. It's such intricate detail. I mean, we're talking independent Swiss watchmaker, right? The best of the best, the pinnacle. And I asked her,
Yeah.
why? Like, where did this come from? You know, how did you choose horology and watchmaking? And for her, it was as a 10-year-old standing in front of the astronomical clock in the square in Prague, where the BTC conference had just been. So all of this was just tying together. But at the age of 10, something clicked inside of her mind, like, I need to know how that works and why it works in such a way. And that formed the rest of her life and her career. So it sounds to me as though you had the same kind of uh, moment watching that film and all the behind the scenes film.
Yeah, I did. And it was probably, around that age too. I was very impressionable, kind of old enough to start to understand how things worked. Um, and yeah, it was really the making of the film, after having already watched the film itself, because I just never really thought about how movies were made prior to that. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm lucky in that way that I've been sort of focused in on it. The journey itself is filled with ups and downs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, getting into that business is not easy. How did you even get your foot in the door?
yeah, getting my foot in the door was, I studied video production, and I just kind of thought that I would find a job at like a local news channel. I didn't really know, I thought I would kind of make my own films in my own on my own time, and just sort of like be a news cameraman. And so what I did was I just started looking up production companies in the area that I was living at the time, and I started doing cold calls. I mean, I like picked up the phone and called people and said I was interested in video production and looking for a job. And somebody gave me the name of a production coordinator and kind of explained that, a lot of this work happens through freelance. You'll get hired for a short-term job, and then you'll get on a crew and kind of move to the next job, meet more people that way, and kind of that's a good way to start. And so somebody just kind of gave me a chance. They hired me as a production assistant, and which is like the lowest entry level position you can have working on a film crew. Um, and it was for like a week long job with NFL Films. It was basically just getting lunch orders and carrying the camera around. At the time I had my summer job after college. I was like doing catering, and I just called and quit. I was like, I got a job in production. I quit. And, a few days later, I was like on an NFL field working with the crew. And so from there, that's kind of how I got dialed into the local production scene where I was. Um, and you know, it was a lot of commercial work. People were still shooting film on commercials back then. A lot of like paper towel commercials, and just kind
Nice.
of nothing like super interesting, like local hospital and like lottery commercials, that kind of stuff. And then I decided I wanted to move to New York City, because I had some friends there that were trying to be actors. And I knew that, I would need to move from a small market to either New York or LA if I wanted to start to like level up. So I went to New York and I already knew
What
people
year are we
there.
think? What year are we talking about right now? Like where are we?
This was like 2005, 2006.
Okay, so you started kind of mid 90s, late 90s?
No, I started professionally in 2004.
Okay, cool, right. Okay. So the internet's
Yeah.
already a thing. Like it's not like, that didn't upset your career journey at any point.
Did you the what? The
The
internet?
internet.
No, I mean that was, as you know, was still early at that point. I mean the thing that really I was experiencing from the beginning of my career was just the sudden shift in camera technology. I
Hmm.
mean that was when things were going from these like huge shoulder mount cameras shooting on like digibeta. A camera costs like $100,000, or people were still using like 16 millimeter film, and those cameras were very expensive. So when I was starting out, this camera called the Panasonic DVX 100 came out, and it was the first like prosumer camera that was very small and handheld, and it kind of emulated the look of film. It's what everybody now knows as 24p. Like that was kind of the first readily available 24p camera, and it cost like $3,000. So like that was a huge game changer in the industry right when I was beginning. So I got to see that sort of transition from this sort of old way of shooting TV and film to this brand new way, which pretty much anybody, I mean, I couldn't afford it at the time, but a lot of people, immediately made the shift to this much cheaper, smaller camera that looked so much better. And so that was the beginning of my career. So that was kind of when things really started accelerating into digital.
Awesome. Right.
You
Okay.
know what I mean?
So that, yeah, no, it's
I don't want to get too in the weeds on the cameras. I mean, I could talk to you about that all day. It's kind of like how Jeff Booth talks about
right. I was thinking
technology
about
being
Jeff in my
revolutionary.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's for better or for worse. Like uh, at that point, and we see it now more with like iPhone. You can shoot a movie on an iPhone, and
Mhm.
it looks just as good as if you use like a $50,000 camera now. And so that's kind of what was happening, at the beginning of my video production career, where all of a sudden a lot more people could buy this cheap camera that looked awesome to start competing with people who had already been in the industry for a decade or two.
Okay, so now you said to Lauren that you've done some like TV behind the scenes work. Obviously, you worked at the NFL as well, so you must have seen some pretty cool stuff. Worked with probably some pretty well known celebrities. The plebs always love a little, backdoor story. So have you got anything there that you can share, like high moments, low moments, embarrassing moments that spring to mind?
Yeah. Oh man. High moments, low moments, embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of all those, definitely. I mean, an embarrassing moment. This wasn't with any like celebrity, but uh, I got hired to shoot something for the Sundance Channel, and I was kind of in over my head. It was a few years in. It was maybe like 4 or 5 years into my career, so I was really always pushing to get my hands on a camera, shoot something. I would shoot anything. Um, and I made a very basic mistake. This was a technical issue, but I didn't ask what shooting specs they wanted. you know, so that's like the settings on the camera, the shutter speed, the frame rate. Um, you know, back to the 24p thing that I mentioned. I don't know how often people even think about that now. Like your iPhone shoots that. You can change the frame rates on your iPhone. You know, people that shoot stuff know this, but at the time I didn't ask what frame rate they wanted. And there's always like a specific delivery spec for a network. You know, they always put it on TV at a specific frame rate. And I didn't check, they didn't tell me. And when they gave me the camera, I just started shooting with whatever was already like the previously saved format on there. So I shot the, you know, like the entire day at the wrong frame rate. And I also, so like just prior to that, I had been working on this like home and garden makeover show, you know, so it's like a home makeover, and the style of camera work they did was like very sort of like shaky and a lot of Dutch angles. And so I just kind of used that style of shooting along with the wrong technical specs. And it was, they completely hated everything I shot. It was like unusable. And I had been covering some event, some like runway modeling event. So like there's no way to go back and redo it. And they brought me in, and I had to watch the footage that I shot with the executive producer while she explained everything that I did wrong and like everything that was bad. You know, like this shot doesn't work because of this. This shot doesn't work because of this. So that was an early low point. It was a very good learning experience. Some highlights. I mean, yeah, I've shot a lot of music. Um, you know, I've met like I filmed an interview with Usher one time. He was so whenever it was for this iHeartRadio, which like used to be Clear Channel, you know, it's like this big radio music festival. And we would interview all of these different musicians, and then they would have them do these like stand-up interviews at the end where they would just feed them lines, and they're like, you know, this radio station, hey, this is so and so, come check this out. And every single person would completely flub the line. Like they could not just ad lib the line back, you know, as the producer asked for, except for Usher. He was like, you could give him like 4 or 5 sentences, and he could memorize and say the entire thing flawlessly, like every time. And he was a really nice guy too. He was, I mean, you know, for somebody like that to be so like personable, I thought that was really cool. Uh, let's see. One time, this will be the last one. Um, I did an interview. I shot an interview with Taylor Swift one time.
Oh,
Um,
Lauren should have hung around for that one. Okay, go on.
yeah. Well, this was back in like probably 2016.
Mhm.
So I mean, she was obviously still very famous then, but nothing like she is now. But I mean, like her manager, whoever was with her, was worried that it would get leaked where she was and that people would show up. But but for that interview, I had just done a 3 night fish run in New York City the day like in the days prior. So I was not feeling well on the morning of the interview, and we set everything up. She came in, we said hello. She sat down, and I had to leave the room before the interview started because I thought I was going to puke. So I missed the whole interview with her because I was out in the hallway. Did not
Damn.
get sick, but had to leave the interview so I didn't cause a scene or anything.
three night fish run. What does that mean? Like you just out on a boat
Yeah,
fishing?
so the band, no, the band Fish.
Oh,
They're
right, okay.
they're
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no,
jam band. Yeah, yeah. So they played Governor's not Governor's Ball, Governor's Island. No, Randall's Island. They played Randall's Island for 3 nights. And so I went to all those shows, and then, like on the following Monday morning, I was not feeling well. So I set up the interview and then had to leave.
oh man, that's
Never told anyone this. I don't know why I just broadcast that out to everyone.
so
That'll be my last story.
yeah. All right, no, they're were the fun ones, and people can they'll find you for a beer one day, I'm sure, and pick your brain for some more because
Yeah.
you got a whole career's worth there. But
Yeah.
so like to fast forward and for people listening, obviously at the title of the show would be your movie, Bitcoiner movie. Uh, what was the well, first of all, I guess we should ask, how did you first even consider looking into Bitcoin? What was that kind of journey for you?
Yeah. So that was related, career related as well. In 2017, excuse me. 2017. Yeah, 2017, I was hired to shoot some interviews for this studio in Brooklyn, New York. Um, and freelancing, you get a call, you get very little info, you show up, and you set up, how to do the job. And so this when I got there, the producer was like, "What do you know about cryptocurrencies?" And I was like, not much. Like I had heard of Bitcoin, you know. I mean, I first heard of Bitcoin when the Silk Road was going down. I remember reading the articles on this website called Gawker of the Silk Road going down. And even in 2013, I thought that was like the end. I thought it was the first time I had heard of Bitcoin. You can buy drugs online. And I thought the government's going to shut it down. Like, I don't even bother trying to figure out how to get it because this website's going down, the government's going to seize it. So I didn't think about it again until 2017. And what the videos ended up being were like these ICO sort of like brand videos, like they were for a couple of different shitcoin companies that were launching tokens, like Ethereum tokens.
Do you remember
And
which
so
ones?
I want to say one was called like Air Swap.
Yeah, I
There was
don't know
like
that. Yeah.
something with air in it.
All right.
Uh,
Oh, there were so many.
yeah, there was another one, it was like this young guy that had worked at some big bank and then like went out on his own. And oh, I forget what that one was called. I don't think they're around anymore.
Yeah.
But we did these interviews, and then like they had this, like, I guess hacker house type of thing is what you would call it now, where all these people are sitting around at computers on like the day that they're launching, and we were just filming them, and we were talking to like the CEO or whoever, explaining what was happening, and they were just like instantly like raking in like millions of dollars, and they were just sort of like sitting there stone faced, and I'm like, these people are becoming rich. This is insane. Like they're not even excited. Like, I didn't understand how any of this worked. And so at the end of the shoot, the producer was like, you should go on, get a Coinbase account, go on there, buy some Bitcoin, buy some Ethereum, and buy some Litecoin. And I was like, okay. So so that's what I did. And the volatility of it, like I was not really prepared for that. I had the Coinbase app, I guess, on my phone. I was like checking that every day, and everything was just going up and down and up and down. And I definitely had unit bias. You know, like
Hmm.
I remember like not really even paying attention to Bitcoin. You know, I was like looking at ETH and Litecoin because they were so much cheaper to buy. Even though, oh God, Bitcoin was like maybe 8,000 at the time. Um, and so, you know, I wrote everything up like just a tiny bit and just sold it even before, you know, because the next time that I even thought about it was probably like in January of 2018 when somebody else brought it up. Somebody else brought up another shitcoin to me, and I had kind of forgotten about it. So I didn't even know that there had been this massive uh, run up, you know, to 20,000 at the time. So I I really didn't get into it until after that crash in 2018. But I was still shitcoining up through the very beginning of 2020. And you know, part of it was that like I didn't know I didn't couldn't find any resources to like distinguish Bitcoin from any of the other cryptos. And whenever I would look up a coin or something, I the only thing I could find were these like Coin Telegraph articles that when I read them, I just couldn't understand what any of them were talking about. You know, and none of them were even really about Bitcoin. So I was on crypto Twitter at the time, and I think I followed a couple of Bitcoiners, but I wasn't really distinguishing. You know, I wasn't separating them at that time. I still kind of thought they were all sort of the same thing. So, you know, the end of 2019, beginning of 2020 was when I finally started to figure out that there was a difference. And you know, one of the things that caught my attention, I'll admit this, was the Plan B stock to flow model. You know, that was going around, and he was on um, Peter McCormick's podcast, and I listened to that, and so that's kind of what caught my attention. And then I think I finally started figuring out more Bitcoiners to follow on Twitter. And then I saw people talking about the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean. So that was when my orange pill journey began, when I got that book.
Do you
That's when it
remember?
finally started to make sense.
Do you remember like why you said they weren't happy that they were making millions of dollars? Do you looking back, do you wonder why they weren't sitting there all high-fiving each other and like during the time of that crypto ICO nonsense?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you know, it was such a just somber vibe in the room. Like we were looking at their screen, they were selling like millions of these tokens, air swap or airdrop, maybe something with air in it. Um, I mean, maybe, yeah, it's because they knew what they were doing. You know, they maybe they knew it was a massive rug. You know, I didn't even, you know, I never even heard of the concept of a rug pull until like 3 years later. I mean, they must have known, you know, like when we're interviewing them and they're explaining what these different tokens do, it I couldn't understand any of it. Like as the layman, there wasn't an explanation that I could understand. So yeah, they must have known. I mean, why else? If you're getting millions of dollars within like minutes, like why wouldn't you be ecstatic unless you know you're doing something wrong?
Man, that's just gives me the shivers. So
Yeah.
much damage, so much damage has been done, and yes, everything other than Bitcoin is a shit coin, and I think we have to be careful because we're calling other people shit coiners. For
Mhm.
me, the shitcoiners are those guys, right? Those literal guys that have come up with the plan and they've raised the money and they've conned the VCs into giving them money on the idea that the VCs are going to get airdrop tokens on the way out before everybody else, and then rug pull retail when they actually go to market and hire a bunch of marketers and this, that, and the other thing, and sit around on a big day and just pump all this stuff out. They're the
Mhm.
shitcoiners. People that get caught up in that stuff are yeah, they're not shitcoiners, not in my book. They're just unfortunate. They're unfortunate. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they've not done the work to understand what Bitcoin is and what shitcoin isn't. Uh, I was there the same as you. I had some bags of ETH, Dash, and Litecoin back in 2017, whenever it was, when all of this stuff was going crazy, and I exchanged Bitcoin for this fucking shit. Uh,
Mhm.
and we just That's why I'm more hopeful going forward, because there are way more podcasts around. When you were even sniffing around in 2020, you were still finding it difficult. That was still like hundreds of percent more than was available in 2015, 16, 17, That's why we need more podcasts, more films like you've made, more books, more YouTube channels, more everything.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I made the film, the initial reason was just for myself because I wanted to make a film. I wanted to challenge myself to make a feature film. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I was like, okay, enough's enough. I just have to do it. And it really coincided with the rabbit hole journey with Bitcoin, with coming to understand it, and also realizing that there just hadn't been something made that focuses on the people, especially like currently, there were other films that followed people in prior cycles of Bitcoin. And so like focusing on Bitcoin Twitter uh just to me seemed like a good idea. Like nobody had really done that. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to make this was to have it as the resource that I wish I would have had. Like any of the people in the film, you can follow, you can buy their book, you can reach out to them. They're all Bitcoin only. They're all have a ton of conviction, and you know I don't want to say like their life revolves around Bitcoin, but Bitcoin really is sort of a guiding light for everyone in the film. And I wanted to really distinguish that Bitcoin was different than all of the other cryptos. Like this is a Bitcoin only film, and so even when I was making it, I would tell people, friends, family, non-Bitcoiners about the film. And the next time I would see any of these people, they would say, "How's your crypto documentary going?" It was always like, "I'm making a Bitcoin documentary." And then the next time I see them, "How's your crypto documentary?" So people are still, even in 2024, calling Bitcoin crypto.
It's I just had it this weekend in Switzerland, where I met a guy for the first time, his first ever conference, and he's just thrown his job in because he's like, right, I can't be a part of this anymore. I've got to go and work in Bitcoin somehow. And he came to make connections and whatever else. Exact same thing. He's like telling his colleagues, I'm going off. I'm going to go start something in Bitcoin. I've got to work in Bitcoin or for Bitcoin and find my place. And they're like, oh, right. Yeah. So you're going off to crypto then? He's like, nope,
Yeah.
Bitcoin. These are people in financial markets. Even though the Bitcoin ETFs, that's their kind of language, it's still
Yeah.
crypto.
Yeah, I mean, every article, like when I pull up like the Apple stocks on my phone and I click on Bitcoin and look at all the articles, all of the mainstream articles are still saying crypto and they have a picture of the Bitcoin logo. So even if the article is only about something in Bitcoin, they label it as crypto.
I don't know why they do it. It's so misleading, and they must know by now.
Yeah, by now, I mean it feels very disingenuous,
Hmm.
to still be labeling it that way.
So, right, how did you choose the people to be in the movie then? Like, and let's shill a few people. You had Kyle from Pleb Labs, you had Jess and Katie from Plan B. They're the ones from memory. Who else do you
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to? And then how? Why these particular people?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of great people in the film. Captain Sid from the Bitcoin tour. I know you just had him on.
Yep.
Uh, Texas Slim, Beef Initiative, Pleb Lab, Kyle Murphy, Car Gonzalez, a couple of the other guys that went through the first cohort there. Michael Atwood from Oceap, he's in there. And then we've got Parker Lewis, Jeff Booth, Lynn Alden, Greg Foss, David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine, Lynn Albrecht. One of the, I think, most important scenes in the film is the Free Ross scene. So I met Lynn at Miami Bitcoin 22. I'll give a shout out to Ryan Calder for making the introduction to her. That was kind of just unexpected. I was filming Kyle at Muscle Beach in Miami, and he was working out with Ryan Calder, and I met Ryan, and he's like, "Hey, I can introduce you to Ross's mom if you want to interview her." I was like, "Yes, absolutely. Let's make that happen." And so I think it was later that day. I think it was the same day. Might have been the next day, but it was at the conference in Miami, and I had done a bunch of interviews with people and at Miami 22, and I knew that I wanted to have a free Ross scene. Um, so that was really important to get. And then the only other person I have really talking about Ross was David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine, and then I also used a clip of Thomas Massey that I found where he was talking about Ross, I guess at some kind of like hearing. Um, so yeah, I mean, you know, everybody in the film was great. Uh, when I had the idea, it was Bitcoin Twitter, the movie was kind of what it was.
Right.
Um, and so, and it still, I think, kind of has that spirit a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's more of going into people's lives and into people's stories. And once I started meeting people and telling them about the film, pretty much everybody said yes, which I didn't expect. I had a big list of people going into the film when I was developing the idea, and I really didn't expect so many people to say yes. And so once people started saying yes, that just created a snowball effect. I mean, Marty Bent is in there, Odell is in there. I got a clip of Justin Moon in there. I filmed in Bitcoin Commons. I filmed in the original Pleb Lab, which was at the Capital Factory in Austin. Um, so yeah, I mean the people in the film are kind of in a couple different categories. There's more of like the expert or like influencer um, type of person, type of interview. which were just specific kind of high level things about Bitcoin, where I did like one interview with them, and I don't have any other footage of them in the film. And then there are more of the personal stories where I, follow people around, like Kyle and Slim are the two main stories. And then KNC Cattle, Cole Bolton is part of the Slim story. And then a couple people kind of bridge those two, like Marty and Parker and Katie and Jessica. I have interviews with them, and then I have some scenes of them kind of tying things together. American Hoddle, he's in there too. I wanted to do more filming with him, but I got him for like maybe 15 minutes at BitBlock Boom in 2021. And so I wanted to make sure I used a couple clips of him. Jimmy Song, I got a great interview with him, which was also very short. Wanted to make sure I got him in there. Warren Davidson, uh, congressman who's very pro Bitcoin. Um, he really does seem to know what he's talking about when it comes to Bitcoin. And he's very much Bitcoin only. Uh, you know, Cynthia Lummis was sort of the hot name early on in filming. She was talking about Bitcoin a lot. She was at the conferences. She was not available for an interview, but I think her office said reach out to Warren Davidson. And so I reached out to him and he said yes. I went down to DC, interviewed him in his office. And he's still very much Bitcoin only in what he talks about, which is great. And I think that's everybody.
Man, yeah, I mean it's a great cast, and I do like the way that you have the personal stories in there, the way it's touched people's lives. It's not like rah rah number go up. This is great. I've got a Lambo. It's
Yeah.
completely opposite to that, especially with Kyle. A very personal story, and he shares a shit ton as well on camera. Really open.
Kyle was a great person to film. I mean, I'm still friends with him. He was the type of person that if you're a filmmaker making a documentary, you want to find somebody like Kyle. He's very authentic. He's, kind of like a what you see is what you get person. He was the same on camera as off camera. Um, and he was really doing a lot of interesting stuff at the time when we were filming. He had sort
Yeah,
of
he was living in his van, right? He in his UPS converted van. There's a story all in
yeah
itself right there. Ex-military guy. I've had him on the pod as well, so I know his personal story. He was very
yeah
open, and people should go and listen to it. Kyle Murphy, Pleb Labs, and then you had him in the Pleb Labs where him and Carl were setting that whole thing up and trying to help accelerate businesses and all of this kind of stuff. It was great, honestly. It was awesome to see.
yeah, thank you. It was I kind of had to make a decision, like, who is this film going to be about? Because I had filmed a lot of the sort of big name people, but it was kind of clear that I wasn't really going to like follow any of them in their day-to-day lives. And so when I went to Austin the first time, I had been following Kyle on Twitter from like the early days of his account when he started. And he just seemed very interesting. He seemed very authentic. And I sort of like added him, I guess, and was like, I'd like to meet these people in Miami, and I named him and a few other people. And that was at Bitcoin 21. Did not meet him then, but we kept in contact. And I realized that Austin, I think I listened, Carr used to have a podcast called like Thriller Bitcoin, where he was the first person that I heard call Austin the Bitcoin Mecca. And I was listening to that and I heard that and was like, oh, I gotta go down there. That's interesting. That sounds like there's something happening there. Um, and nobody else was really talking about it, but I knew that like Unchained was there. I knew that Austin Bit Devs was kind of a big deal, and figured out that that's where Kyle was also, and Carr was also, and so I decided to go to Austin, and the first interview with Kyle, which is like the opening scene of the film, that was what he was saying was just so powerful and like was blowing my mind, talking about how Bitcoin is, it's his mission to use Bitcoin to help end war, um, was just like the greatest thing that I'd heard. And so that was kind of when I decided that the film should revolve around him. I don't think I told him that at the time, that he was going to be sort of the main focus, but after he said that, I was like, I got to keep filming him and whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it's powerful when somebody from the military, ex-military, embraces Bitcoin and sees this as a way to solve war and to, to be able to speak openly about that and why and how. Yeah, so where can people watch it? Like they're probably thinking, all right, how do I get my hands on the movie? If they want to showcase it, maybe at an event or whatever. What's your
Yeah.
what have you been doing? How have you been getting it out there?
Yeah. So the film is out. Um, Anybody can watch it. It's on my website, bitcoinersmovie.com. And I have a paywall set up there right now with Zapright. John from Zapright, another great guy that went through Pleb Lab. I filmed with him, and so I was excited to use Zapright on the website. Uh, $6.15, 6.15 is the price that I've set. And yeah, bitcoinersmovie.com. It's on my website. That's the only place to watch it. It's not currently on any big streaming platforms. That could change at some point in the future. But right now, you know, I'm the only one hosting the film. So anybody that buys the film, the money's going directly to me to pay off the production costs and recoup the production costs.
Cool. So have you spoken with Corey from My Movies Plus? Are you aware of that platform?
Yeah, we have been in contact. Earlier on during production, we had a couple of conversations about his platform and about possibly working together, but uh, that has not come to fruition.
All right. Well, might do in the future if you're looking to put it on a streaming platform or because it's better just throwing it onto a centralized platform. Something of Bitcoin as
Yeah,
well.
there's a place called Indie Hub
Mm-hmm.
that reached out to me, and they were involved in the Bitcoin Film Festival in Poland. And I think there was a limited time where all of the films from the Bitcoin Film Fest were on Indie Hub.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know currently what's happening with that. So it was available on there. I think some people did watch it on that platform, but as far as I know, it's not still up because I haven't heard anything from them.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm wearing the Film Fest T-shirt here.
Nice.
We were there in Warsaw, and I know your film was being showed at that. We didn't see it. I've seen it before, obviously, when you sent
Yeah.
it, but we didn't see it in the cinema. But I did hear other people talking about it. And what kind of feedback have you got from it?
All the feedback I've gotten has been positive. I mean, you know, if somebody watches it and does not like it, I would like to know. You know,
Right.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not scared to get negative feedback from the film. If somebody watches it and hates it, leaves a review on Twitter, I will retweet it. I mean, if you know, working in film and TV for so long, I have faced a lot of rejection, and even when I think I've done a good job, I have still faced rejection. So, with the creative project, I kept in mind while I was making it that not everyone might like it. There are people in the film that probably rub some people in the wrong way, or maybe they just don't like how the story was told. I mean, I like hearing positive feedback, but it's almost like uh, if if people watch it and they don't really have a strong feeling about it, then they'll just say like, "Oh yeah, it was good." Like, yeah, you don't want to say anything negative about it, but uh, I kind of want to hear like a visceral reaction. I mean, maybe it's not bad enough to elicit that from somebody, but or good enough to elicit that from somebody. I mean, I got a really positive review from the BTC Times. I asked them to review it, and I was like, just give an honest review. Like, please watch the film, give an honest review. And the only negative thing that he said about it was that, some of the interviews could have like looked a little more interesting, which, yeah, I agree. They could have looked better. I was out there shooting it by myself with one light, oftentimes with no light, like in a hallway or like in a park somewhere. So yeah, I mean, I tried to make it look as good as I could, but that was a fair criticism, and that wasn't even that bad of a criticism. So if somebody tweeted at me that it was the best Bitcoin film they've ever seen, and I said, "How many have you seen?" And he said, like, probably five or six. It's like, okay, that's great, thank you. Um, so yeah, all the feedback has been good. I mean, tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like about it.
Well, you had one good interview location at least because you had Jess and Katie on a boat at one stage. Am I where?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was one of my favorite scenes. I love how that turned out. They were just so amazing at the way that they were sort of like riffing off of one another. Yeah, so I had already filmed with them a couple times. I had done an interview with Katie at BitBlock Boom, which was very short, and I was also in a hallway that was kind of loud. And then we had done another one someplace, and I wanted to film with her again because I just really liked her. I liked what she had to say. And so, that was kind of one of those moments that was like produced a little bit. You know, Generally in this film, I really tried not to overproduce things. I would literally tell people, I just need to film you doing something. I don't care what you're doing. Like that's how I got that scene of Kyle like fixing a sink near the end. I was like, I just need shots of you doing stuff. But so for Katie, I had this idea because she had a sailing background, and I wanted to get her on a boat sailing. I wanted to like get her actually doing the sails and the ropes and everything. Um, but we couldn't get that, but she could get like a speedboat. And so I was like, I'd like to film you on a boat, just doing something. And so she set that up. We ended up getting a cool interview with the captain of the boat. Like that was one of those things where like I had reached out to some like well-known Bitcoin naysayers, like some of the famous detractors of Bitcoin, and to interview. Some of them said yes, some of them said no. And what I ended up doing instead of interviewing those people was just using interviews with kind of normal people that we encountered during filming to ask them their opinions. And there's like at least two of them in the film. There are a few more that got cut. But so on the boat, I thought the interview with the captain was insightful because he's like, I don't know much about Bitcoin or any of the cryptos, but like Katie had given him a tip in Bitcoin on their previous excursion and like had him download a wallet and he accepted it and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I felt like that really illustrated a good example of kind of what normal people know about Bitcoin. And so yeah, the scene on the boat, was I kind of wanted to have it be like a nod to the Bitcoin boating accident, you know, that's sort of the Easter egg, if you will, that I think people will pick up on. And I asked Katie and Jessica about, like, have you ever lost any Bitcoin on a boat? And it just didn't come across naturally. So, we ended up cutting that out. But just having them on a boat was great because the stuff they were talking about. And they ended up, after that, they ended up doing like wakeboarding, I think, or like water skiing. And that just didn't fit. So I did it, I filmed it, but I just didn't use those shots. It was just kind of weird.
Oh, how much is on the cutting room floor? A whole another movie, I'm sure.
I mean, there were probably like at least 10 to 12 people that I cut out of the film. And the initial cut, like the first rough cut of the film, was between 3 and 4 hours long.
Whoa.
I had entire sections of different stories. This great Bitcoiner named Cal Casa, Ethiopian Bitcoiner. He's in Austin, but he's Ethiopian and he goes back there and he educates people about Bitcoin and he's taken books to the libraries and he's like held these events. And I had this great footage of him at some event in Ethiopia educating people about Bitcoin. Um, but I had to cut it, like at Miami 22, there's this whole great scene with the meme factory and simply Bitcoin and American Hodl. They did this panel. It's on my
Yep.
Twitter. I put the scene, I edited the scene and I put it on Twitter, which is just them behind the scenes, backstage, just, shooting the shit, like live memeing, basically. Like those guys are so funny. And then like Greg Zadge signing potatoes for people. Like that was one of my favorite things that I shot. He's just in the hall at the conference signing potatoes. And it's like one of those inside jokes that people on Twitter will get, but people in the conference hall, most of them didn't understand why he was doing that.
That's where the meme few is so like specific because you go to I was there as well and I remember I think on the panel didn't someone throw a potato up at Greg when he was up on stage?
Yeah, he had bags of potatoes, and then some people in the front row threw potatoes onto the stage. Yeah.
Yep. So very few people understand. So even when you're surrounded by a bunch of Bitcoiners, there's still only few.
Yes.
What's the next project, mate?
It's a great question. um, I've got some ideas. Um, you know, in terms of like, I tweeted something once that was like, this could end up being a trilogy. Um, the first one's called Bitcoiners. The second one is called Bitcoiners 2 Satoshi Boogaloo. And then the third one is called Bitcoiners 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are a ton of stories and people that I've met, people that I haven't met, that I follow, that are interesting. You know, there's definitely enough content. Um, I haven't started working on anything. I'm still trying to make this film economically viable.
Right.
And so until I can get further with that mission, I don't know when the next project will happen. I mean, I wish I had something to announce. I definitely know of one idea that I'll say, depending on a major event happening this fall, the outcome of that, there is interest from a specific party to potentially shoot something
Hmm.
that would be highly relevant that I think a lot of Bitcoiners would be interested in, but I can't specifically tell you what that is.
Obviously. Oh man, well, whatever it is, I hope it comes off, and I hope
I
that.
also need a budget, so
Well,
that's
this is the thing, and this is where I was going to take it because this has
yeah,
been on my mind since BTC Prague, and I spoke with Rockstar about it and Avi Bora, because there seems to be there's funding out there. There's funding out there on the VC side of things for entrepreneurs. So it's still tough. I'm not saying it's easy for entrepreneurs, Bitcoin businesses to get funding, but if they've got an idea, there's at least 6 or 7 funds, Bitcoin only funds that they can go to and at least pitch the idea. If they're lucky, then they might get some funding. And the same with developers. Obviously, developers are being there's at least 10 grant programs I can think of that are supporting existing devs and up and newcomers as well. But there's no fund out there, from what I can tell, that other than Geyser, where it's just pure Kickstarter, Geyser, Pleb
yeah,
work, where you throw up your idea, can you get behind this with some sats, and leaning into the plebs there to help you. But there's no fund for the cultural and educational side of Bitcoin. Filmmaking,
yeah,
one great example, because I know Bitcoin Shooter, for example, we need to get his film over the line because it's all about inflation and it's going to hit a lot of normies. Pierre Corbin, he has another movie. He's already got his first one, The Great Reset, but he's got another one that needs like the final edit, the final cut. It's sitting there. It's
yeah,
good to go, but can't get it over the line. We've got you sitting here thinking, how do I make this first one? All that time and effort that you've already put in, how do you recoup that before you can even start thinking about the next one? And then you same problem for writers, people that are trying to get books out there. They don't have the time to give up their fiat job to sit down and write 100% every single day, and then interact with an editor, and then try and get that either self-published or published by a big house or whatever. There's a distinct lack of help funding for these kind of projects. And I think they're really, honestly, the most important. Educational content needs support. It really does. You can't just start a podcast and hope sponsorship comes, because there's still only few Bitcoin companies out there. And believe me, I've turned away more crypto sponsorships than I've accepted Bitcoin sponsorships.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a few things I'll say about that. Geyser, I did receive a grant from Geyser, which I'm definitely I was excited and grateful to get that. For me, I mean, you know, being recouping costs at this point, it's just getting more eyeballs on the film. Getting people to buy the film, and anybody who buys the film, they can watch it anytime. I just had somebody down in San Antonio, Texas. They watched the film. They wanted to play it for their meetup down there, and so they just hosted a free screening at their meetup, and had, I don't know, like 15 or 20 people there watching it on like a Wednesday night. Um, I found it to be a bit difficult. I mean, this is sort of going off that topic a bit, to get people to accept Bitcoin as payment. I was very optimistic about it at the beginning, and I did raise some money for the film, and I raised some Bitcoin for the film, and all my sound people that I hired, they happily accepted Bitcoin as payment, which was amazing. I mean, hiring freelancers for like a day or two, you got to pay them their rate, and those guys all accepted Bitcoin, which was amazing. But I had other people, I mean, I had a designer that did some of the titles and graphic work, and I don't even know his real name. I paid him in Bitcoin. He's overseas somewhere. So that worked great in that way. But there were other people that, I mean, I hate to say it, but like I did have to sell some Bitcoin to pay people because they wanted dollars. People still need dollars to pay their bills. And if someone is not, if they're not already a Bitcoiner, or they're not even interested in becoming one, or doing one job, like one contract job, and accepting it as payment, it sucks, but like you gotta pay people in a currency that they want to accept, you know. And now if I would have paid them in Bitcoin back when I needed to, and they accepted, that would have gone up. Their purchasing power would have increased by now, but they were not willing to do that. Like I could contact them now and be like, look, you would be like 30% richer if you would have just taken that. But yeah, back to the funding. I mean, you're right about there are funds and uh, companies that are willing to accept. I mean, willing to fund devs, or obviously like a startup business that is Bitcoin related. But it is difficult to find people that want to participate in the educational or artistic endeavors.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can find. I mean, who knows? Maybe that
That
changes.
person could be listening right now.
Yeah. Well,
If
Plan
you
B
are,
Network, Plan B Network, Giacomo and Roxy are doing a great job there, and they support like Joe Nakamoto and his YouTube channel, for example. So they're very much focused on getting behind educational content as well. So I think they're probably going to be the first, and probably going to shine the light on that path. But it's needed, because how many of us listening to this podcast, or how many of us here that have been here for like 3 to 4 years, where have you spent 500 to 1,000 hours probably listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos, one and two, reading books, probably right up there as well. And, yeah, maybe the author can recoup the costs if the book sells. But even then, you've got to sell a hell of a lot. And, Safe is obviously
yeah.
leading the way there. But many other authors, I doubt, Jimmy's making too much money on the excellent books he's written, and all of the others, because we still are so few, right? There's only a few of us. So getting ahead and getting funding for these people that are putting their necks on the line and leaving their fiat jobs. Are you still juggling your fiat job as well?
Yeah, I am. It's there's been a big downturn in production work over the past couple of years.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trying to navigate that and, you know, locate more opportunities in my fiat job.
Yeah, it's well, get on Pleb work. You might get hired by some Bitcoiners. I don't know if you've heard of plebwork.com.
Lab work. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can put yourself up there as videographer.
I know there are a couple of those like sort of Bitcoin
Yep.
network
Yeah,
uh
it's kind of like the Upwork or Fiverr equivalent, but for plebs, for
lab
Bitcoiners.
work. Okay.
So if well, next time you need someone, you can go there and try and find someone to hire. But then you can also put yourself up there if people need high end filming done. Then you never know, you might be called in. But all right,
Great.
well, final question: if you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why?
Mhm. Somebody living?
Yeah, why not? Let's go living.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what? I know that I knew that you asked this question. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for this one. Um, hmm.
Well, I guess same kind of question. Who
No,
would be one person that you would want to see your movie, and then that might help get them orange pill. It kind of goes hand in hand, I suppose.
yeah. Okay. Hmm. I would say, I don't even know. That makes it a little easier for me. Um, I don't know even who the name of this person would be, but the production company A24, uh you know what? They just put out that Civil War movie, which was terrible. So, but their films have been very good. Like Uncut Gems, the Adam Sandler movie. Um, Good Time is another one of the films they put out, which was awesome. Uh, I mean, I would love to have my film released under their label. So I would say whoever's calling the shots at that place, if they could sort of get out of this fiat mindset, um, I guess, which is kind of a Hollywood mindset, which I don't even want to be involved in.
Mm.
But really, in terms of like decentralizing, like getting back to independent filmmakers and independent creators, finding value in that again. I think if those type of people were orange pilled, um, we could start seeing a lot more high quality Bitcoin content getting a much bigger reach.
All right, there's the challenge to the plebs. Get Rob in touch with the guys from A24. Someone out there's got to know someone.
Somebody can do it. Yeah.
All right, well, how can people get in touch, mate? What's the best way to track you down?
Yeah, so Bitcoiners movie on Twitter. My reach on there has really gone down the can. I don't know what is Elon is doing with the algorithm, but my engagement is non-existent on there. But I
Mm.
am still around on there, so that's at Bitcoiners movie on Twitter. I've got clips. I've got some trailers from the film. I've got some cut scenes and extended scenes. If you scroll through my highlights on there, and then watching the film, you can either use fiat or Bitcoin on the website to watch the film, and that's bitcoinersmovie.com.
Love it. Excellent. Well, thank you, Rob, for everything that you've done with the film and everything that you're going to do in the future with the other projects once you get unlocked and released from Fiat Land. Really looking forward to what else you have in store. So Yeah, and are you going to be making any of the conferences this year, so the plebs can come and say hi if there's any way they could add value?
At this point, I don't think I'll be making it to any conferences this year,
All right.
unfortunately. Yeah, but if I do, I will let people know.
All right. Cool. Well, people can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, anybody can reach out on there.
Excellent. Cheers, Rob. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Daniel.